Hi guys, it's Katie. Welcome back to my channel. So if you're new here, hi, my name's Katie Wismer. I'm an author and an editor. I have 6 books out currently and I'm an indie author. So for today's video, I wanted to do sort of a year in review, how self-publishing my books went in 2021. And I debated for a while whether or not I was going to make this video, whether I was just going to put it on Patreon, because I wanted to be able to go into the specific numbers, both because I think the transparency is helpful for other people. At least I really appreciate when other authors do this kind of video. I feel like I get a lot out of it. And then also selfishly for myself in the future, I like being able to look back. Ultimately, clearly, we've decided to make the video. Speaking of my Patreon page, if you want to go join me over there, I do post bonus videos every single month over there, and it's recently changed to a pay what you can system, so no matter what tier you're a part of, you will get all benefits moving forward. So yeah, in today's video I just kind of wanted to talk about the year as a whole and then give you specific numbers on which books sold, how many copies, and stuff like that. Just kind of a time capsule of how 2021 went with writing and self-publishing. I did one of these videos kind of that was pretty similar a few months ago on how my first year working for myself went. So this video is really just going to focus on my books and how my books did this year. So first let me tell you briefly what my books are in case you don't know. We're getting quite the stack now. My first book was The Sweetest Kind of Poison. This is a collection of poetry and this came out in 2018. My second book was The Anti-Virginity Pact. This came out in 2020 and this is a young adult contemporary novel. And then in October of 2020, Poems for the End of the World came out, my second poetry collection. For 2021, the books that were released, The Anti-Relationship Year came out in March. This is a new adult college friends to lovers romance. The Marionettes came out in August. This is the first book in a new adult fantasy romance series. And then Wicked Souls is the second book in that series and this came out in December. 4 novels, 2 poetry collections. In 2021, I'm just thinking like month to month, what did I do? In January, I wrote the rough draft of a romantic suspense standalone that I'm hoping to publish in 2022. I'm currently revising it. By February, I think I was revising The Marionettes because I wrote the rough draft in November of 2020. And then obviously this came out in March, so I was probably also finalizing the edits and stuff at the beginning of the year. And then while I was revising this, I also started writing the rough draft of this. So then the rest of this year was really dedicated to finishing this book, starting editing, and then finishing and publishing this book. I also wrote my 3rd poetry collection, which I'm hoping to come out in 2022. I also started writing the rough draft of book 3 for this series. I'm about 50,000 words into it now. I also started to revise that standalone. I also started to write Gracie's book, which is another standalone. That's like just what I've been calling it. It's not the title, which I'm hoping to get back to in 2022, but we'll see. I think those are all of the projects I worked on in 2021 as far as I can remember. I got the audiobooks made for all of my books last year, actually. The Anti-Virginity Pact, The Anti-Relationship Year, The Marionettes, and Wicked Souls all had audiobooks come out in 2021. So now let's get into some specific numbers. So I'm gonna be telling you how many units of books were sold in the year 2021, not how many units have been sold for a book in total, you know? So we'll start in publication order, I guess. So for The Sweetest Kind of Poison, I'm going to share how many books were sold in 2021, not how many books have been sold in its lifetime. Like I said, this book came out in 2018, so it's an older one for sure. I also do absolutely no marketing for it. I can't think of a single thing that I did for this book this year. I might have posted a TikTok or 2, and then in my videos it's like one of the images when I say I have 6 books. But other than that, I don't run ads, I don't spend money on this, I literally do nothing for this book. So it's a miracle to me that it even continues to sell because I literally do nothing for this book. It's just passive income for me at this point. For such an old book that I do nothing for, I'm thrilled when it sells a single copy. So in 2021, I sold 186 copies of The Sweetest Kind of Poison. Like, I'll take it. Moving on to the Anti-Virginity Pact. I have more to talk about with the rest of the books. So with the this is not the Anti-Virginity Pact. With the Anti-Virginity Pact, I actually did quite a bit for this book this year because its companion book came out this year. The Anti-Relationship Year, these are obviously companions, you can tell by the covers. They're both standalones, but they are companion books. This book follows Meredith and this book follows Jo. Jo is Meredith's best friend. So that's how they connect, by the characters. This book is set in high school, this book is set in college. So this book again came out in 2020, so it's been out for over a year, and it definitely saw a bit of a surge when, you know, book 2 came out. I also ran a 99-cent sale on this, and then I also ran a free promotion on this book. So there's a whole video on, I think, both of those and the result of both of those if you're interested, on Patreon, on setting up the 99-cent sale, on doing the free promotion, and the results that I saw from that if you're interested in videos that are specific to that. But in 2021, I sold 516 copies of this, and I gave away 2,336 free copies of this book. So yeah, considering this is over a year old, I'm really happy with the numbers that we saw in 2021. And then for poems, this is our last like backlist title book that did not come out this year. Again, I find poetry difficult because it's more niche, it's harder to market, so I don't do any kind of marketing for my poetry books except for like post a couple of TikToks. The thing about this book that has really helped it is it was nominated for a Goodreads Choice Award, so I've definitely seen more people add it to their to read shelves on Goodreads and pick it up because of that. It shows up as having an award on Goodreads, and then if you go on Amazon it has a little flag that says it was a nominee, so I feel like that kind of gets people to get it. I've also noticed a huge surge in people picking up this book in December and January. They're trying to fit something short into their end of the year to reach their reading goals, or they're trying to start the year off strong by starting with a short book. So I was actually looking back, and last year, December and January were my best months for this book too. So poetry apparently is a good thing to push towards the end of the year because people are trying to reach their reading goals or trying to get a jump start on the reading goals. So anyway, zero marketing, put zero money into trying to sell this book, and it's been out for over a year. I sold 459 copies of this book this year. Also a contributing factor, I think, to both of the poetry collections not selling a ton this year, the Sweetest kind of poison. You know, I saw a big surge of sales when this book came out in 2020 because it's, you know, another poetry book, so people wanted to go back and read that next one. I didn't release a poetry book this year. I feel like if I had released the third collection, both of these sales would have spiked up because I had released a related book. So I am hopeful that when I release poetry collection number 3 in 2022, both of these will, you know, get some new life because of that new release as well. Now moving into the 2021 releases. Our March release, the Anti-Relationship Year. This has been my problem child. This book has been the most difficult for me to market because it is a companion, but it's a standalone. So, you know, I've been trying really hard to push that you can read this book without having read the first one. But even if people understand that, sometimes they still feel like they still need to read the first book and they don't want to read this until they've read the first book. So I've just had a lot of trouble marketing this book and funneling people to this book and clearly conveying what it is. So selling this book has been a challenge this year. This has been the hardest book of mine to sell, I have found, which is actually a really big shame to me because this is one of my favorite books that I've written. It has some of my favorite characters in it. It's one of the books that I'm the most proud of. This is by far the book of mine that I wish more people would read. I really love this book. It's very personal to me, and like I said, I'm just very proud of this book. It is frustrating that it's been difficult to market, but I completely understand why that is. I've learned from it and I'm doing things different moving forward. But so this came out in March. It came out the last day of March. So in the 9 full months that it's been out, in 9 months we've seen 750 sales, which is not terrible by any means. I am happy with that. You know, it's made back all of the money that I invested into it, which is, you know, like the minimum of what I would like to see with a book. I am hopeful as I start to publish more contemporary books, maybe more people will pick this up. And because I did that free sale on this book, I'm hoping once people finally get around to reading the free book, because, you know, only so many people who download free books actually end up reading it. Once people start reading it, I'm hoping to see more read through to book 2. So I am hopeful that this book is not doomed, but I'm not pouring as much energy into trying to market it moving forward because it's just been challenging. 750 sales, nothing to sneeze at. Another reason why I was like hesitant to make this video is because I feel like, I don't know, I don't ever want to come across like I'm bragging and I don't want anyone to compare themselves to me and feel bad, but I also know my sales numbers aren't like incredible. I am not a bestseller. I'm still early in my career and I've been slow and steady so far, honestly. But I am proud of myself. I am proud of my sales. I'm able to do this full time and I love what I do. So on the one hand, I felt like I didn't want to share my numbers because I know they're not amazing, but then I also didn't want to share my numbers and feel like I was like, I sold this many copies of my books, you know? So I'm sure you guys know where I'm coming from. Moving on to August, Marionettes came out. This book has taken me by surprise because it's a new genre. I had no idea how this book was going to perform and TikTok has been my saving grace for finding new readers. And this book has also been in Kindle Unlimited. So the thing is with calculating book sales, I have no way of knowing how many people have read this book through Kindle Unlimited. All I know is the total number of pages read, and I know what their Kindle normalized page count is, which is how many pages they count for Kindle Unlimited. The way that I've determined the book sales for this is I've taken the total number of KU page reads and divided it by the Kindle normalized page count. So that's assuming people who downloaded this on Kindle Unlimited read the book all the way through, which we know is not the case. There are probably tons of people who downloaded it, read half, read 10 pages. Like, there's no way of knowing how many individual people downloaded this. So the way that I calculated it, that basically gives you the minimum number of people who've read it, or at least started it, you know? So that's one thing that's a little bit funky when you're in KU trying to calculate book sales. But in 2021, this came out the last week of August, so that's about 4 months of sales that we have. 1,857 books in 4 months. That's nuts for me. I was kind of hoping I was gonna hit 2,000 just for like the sake of a satisfying number, and it's always like just barely over the edge. So now in January, like, we've hit that, but for 2021, 1,856. If you're curious about the specific numbers, 189 of those have been audiobooks, 270 have been ebooks, 660 have been paperbacks, and then my Kindle Unlimited page reads have been 257,533, which, dividing down by the Kindle normalized page count, is about 742 people read it through Kindle Unlimited. That's book one. Wicked Souls came out December 7th. So for 2021, we have 3 weeks of sales. I was kind of bracing myself with this release to have a similar experience as the Anti-Relationship year, and to have, you know, not trouble marketing it, but I was expecting lower numbers because the pool of people who could buy this book was limited to people who'd read book 1. So I was expecting to see some lower numbers, and then, you know, hopefully start to see the read through over time as more books came out. So I was kind of expecting that I was gonna have to be patient with this series. In its first 3 weeks of being out, this book has sold 871 copies. Already more than this one that's been out almost all year, which is nuts to me. I was kind of hoping to hit 1,000 again for the sake of it, and now we've hit it by the first week of January. But for 2021, 871 copies of book 2. If you care about the specifics, 86 were audiobooks, 152 ebooks, 386 paperbacks, and 120,460 KU page reads, which divided down is about 247 people read it through Kindle Unlimited so far. I should also say the numbers that I'm putting on the screen might be a little bit different than what I'm saying out loud, specifically for this book, because the calculations of how many were sold, especially through Scribd, they don't usually email me the report until a week or 2 into the next month, and I haven't gotten the email yet. So I didn't want to sit around and wait. I don't know how many people read this in Scribd in December, and I only say that because this book is really popular in Scribd. The majority of the book sales that I get for this book are in Scribd. So that was my year for my books, not including whatever happened in Scribd, because I still haven't gotten those numbers. I sold 4,639 books this year. I was hoping to hit 5,000 again. I just really like the nice, satisfying numbers, but I am really trying to get out of this mindset of like, nothing is good enough. Like, oh, I got this, but I wish I had gotten just a little bit more. Or, you know, I'm looking forward to this and looking forward to this, and like, nothing is ever satisfactory. Like, no, that's still really good for me. I'm still really proud of that number. I'm still really happy with this year, and I'm not going to diminish that and just like belittle my accomplishments just because I feel like it's not as good as what other people are doing. So anyway, I'm trying really hard to be nicer to myself this year and to not get so caught up in these kinds of things. I think this was a really good year for me. If you're interested, I did a full-on income report over on Patreon for this year over there. So I was just like really happy with how this year and my income went overall. But then I'm also really happy to not focus on just the numbers for how my books have done this year. I feel like I really found a readership for the Marionettes series this year. Not only have I, you know, sold a decent number of copies of the books, but I have found readers who are so excited about them and who DM me and email me and tag me in their posts, and they've been making these like collages and posting them on social media and like telling me how excited they are for the next book and like freaking out about the cliffhanger and sharing their favorite quotes with me. And I've had people excited about my books before, but never to this degree, where I feel like I have like people who are genuine like fans of the books, which has been just so heartwarming to see as like a fangirl of books myself, when I used to be so excited about books, seeing other people with that level of excitement about my characters and my plot twists and my stories, that has been the big takeaway from this year. Is I just genuinely feel like my books found the right people this year, which I'm really just so excited about. I've really enjoyed writing this series and seeing other people enjoy them as much as I enjoy them. It's just been so like wholesome, I guess. I just like, it just makes me smile so much. So yeah, in 2022, I'm expecting to have 5 releases. They're not all new releases. I'm releasing a special edition hardcover of the Marionettes. So then I also want to release a hardcover of Wicked Souls. And then I'm gonna have book 3 in that series, Bloodless Ties, come out. I want to have my 3rd poetry collection come out, and then I also want to have my standalone romance come out. 5 releases. Should be a busy year. I also just feel like I've learned a lot this year. You know, I published my first book in 2018, but I wasn't really trying to get into self-publishing back then. It was just for fun. And then in 2022, I started publishing in June, so I had 2 books come out that year. And that was a really big learning curve that year, honestly. And so 2021 is the year where I feel like I really got my feet under myself. I started to get into a good like momentum. I've started to figure things out. I feel like no matter every year, I feel like I'm going to be learning more, making new mistakes, and hopefully growing every year. But this year I feel like I learned a lot, and I've applied what I've learned to new releases, and that's helped them, and they've done better because of it. I'm happy with my numbers, but more so I'm happy with the growth of my career, in the sense that I feel like I know what I'm doing more now, and I feel like I have what I need in order to do better in the future. Like, I'm really optimistic about the future, and I'm a lot more confident in myself and my abilities and my knowledge, and I know where I'm going. So overall 2021, I really focused on the books. I really focused on my career. That's what most of my time was dedicated to this year. And that's not the plan for 2022. I'm moving, I'm focusing more on my personal life, and I'm really looking forward to doing other things, but I am also very excited about the books that I'm gonna have coming out next year. So thank you so much if you've been following along with my journey and everything. It was a good year. It was a good year. I'm very, very grateful for this year. If you're also an author, I would love to hear about how this year went for you down below in the comments. If you want to check out any of my books, I'll have them linked down below in the description. If you want to check out my Patreon page, I'll also have that linked down below. You can now pre-order the special edition hardcover of the Marionettes that will be coming out February 21st. I'm trying to think of any other reflections that I want to put in this video, because like I said, I like to look back on these, so this might be just awkward me talking to future Katie here. The biggest lesson from this year was kind of the transition out of my Pact series into the Marionettes series, because to be honest, I feel like I had a really bumpy start to my self-publishing journey, which I've talked about in various videos, so I'll try not to be repetitive and really get into that here. This book came out, this first book came out, and I don't really think I received any negativity when this originally came out. It reached its audience, like ideal audience, really quickly. It struck a chord with a lot of people, and I found a lot of people who could relate to this pretty much right off the bat. So this was like an overall pleasant experience when this came out. Despite how personal it is, I didn't really feel any negativity toward that. And then this book came out, and there was a lot of negativity around this release. It didn't do as well as I had been hoping to. And I put a lot of myself into this book. This book is very personal for me. And so it was emotionally just a really hard time to go through, because I think writing this book in a way was really cathartic to me. And so then basically the things that I was trying to work through on my own by writing about them, it was all just like proven right by the things that people were saying after it came out, and by the way people were acting towards me once it came out. So it wasn't like unexpected, but it was still really hard to go through. And then to have, you know, the second book came out that I worked really hard on and I was really proud of, it just didn't perform as well as I hoped it would. I just feel like I really took a hit to my confidence with these books. A lot of people didn't love the first one. People didn't want to try the second one. People liked the poetry collections, but I've always been into novels more than anything else. It's what I've always wanted to do with my life. I was scared at the beginning of this year, honestly, that I wasn't gonna make it, that this, like, I don't have a plan B. This is what I've done my entire life, and I could, you know, go get a job somewhere else or whatever, but I will never want something more than I want to write my books. I've never been passionate like this about anything other than writing. This is what I've known I wanted to do my entire life. And so if this didn't work out for me, that was just gonna be a really, really hard pill for me to swallow. So having this series just be a little underwhelming in its performance was a really hard way to start my career, just to be completely transparent with you. they didn't sell horribly. Every single one of my books has made the money back that I invested into them. Every single one of my books has had at least someone love it. Every single one of my books has at least had one person reach out to me and tell me it's their new favorite book. Like, all of these amazing things have happened, but of course you always just like focus on the negativity. And I was just having a hard time at the beginning of this year, like holding on to hope. And so let's get out of this like negative energy. The thing that's really come out of that to me, and the thing that I've really realized with self-publishing, is it's a long game and you gotta stick it out. Because, you know, my first 4 books, they did okay, they did pretty well, but nothing along the levels that I wanted to see. It wasn't until book number 5 that I saw any kind of real traction with these books. And I don't feel like I'm fighting for every book sale. I feel like the books are selling themselves. Other people are talking about them on social media. Other people are recommending them. People are picking them up on their own. I don't feel like I have to convince every person to buy the book, which I know isn't the case for the other books either, but that's what it felt like. It took me 5 books to gain any sort of traction in my career, is what it feels like. And now I have these 2 books that, I mean, I'm sure there's like some people who don't like it, as with every book, but the feedback has been, you know, what I had hoped to see with the first series, with the level of enthusiasm, the people who loved them. This is what I had wanted with the earlier books. And you know, not every book is gonna be the one for you, I guess, is what I'm saying. So I don't know, 2021 takeaway: a bad book is not gonna ruin your career. People not liking a book doesn't equate to it being a bad book. Every new book that you release is a new opportunity to find new readers, to reinvent yourself. It's a new fresh start every single time you release a book. Some people take off with their first book, and it's best to just be happy for them. If that doesn't happen for you, just keep on trucking along and writing your books, because it might be your 5th book, it might be your 10th book, it might be your first book, but 10 years after it came out, like, you never really know. Made a lot more friends this year in the community and talked to a lot more people, and I just really value that, and I'm really grateful for that. I feel like I've made some like genuine connections with other people in the community, and that's actually something that, like, I started my channel 6 years ago. We've talked about this briefly in some video a while ago, that I had like made friends with people who made a channel around the time that I did, and now that it's been 6 years, a lot of those people don't make videos anymore. So I felt like I just was kind of on the outskirts of the community for a really long time, especially because I kind of walked that line between booktube and authortube for a really long time, that I felt like no one really knew what to do with my channel. So I feel like I've been in this community for a long time, and I know mostly everyone. We've like talked or something, but I don't have like these connections within the community. And I feel like I've made a lot more friends this year, which made me happy. I feel like sometimes I come off as like a standoffish person, and I'm not, but I'm also not like super extroverted, so I'm not very good at making friends, to be honest. And then I also just gained confidence in my writing again, which I desperately need it. You know, my first series didn't go as well as I'd hoped, and I'm also just like in a different environment than I've been in all my life, you know, all through school and then through college in a creative writing degree. I was getting positive feedback all the time. Even teachers of mine who weren't English teachers, they would read like my essays and stuff, and every single adult in my life from when I was like 5 to 22 has reaffirmed in my head that like, oh my gosh, you're such a good writer, like you are a writer. And I've gotten all of this positive feedback my whole life that I was on the right path, that that's what I should be doing, that that's what I'm good at. And then to have, you know, release 2 books that like don't do as well. It's not that I'd never heard negative feedback on my writing before, but it was like the absence of all of that positive feedback. And then that, it was like, it just, I took a really big hit to my confidence. And so seeing this new series do well and people really enjoy it, I don't know, I just feel like I kind of got that confidence back again. I've definitely seen my own growth in my books. I definitely recognize that, you know, my first book isn't my best book. I still stand by it. I'm still proud of it. I still love it. I think it's cool to see too your own growth from book to book. You know, I would much rather see it that each book that I write gets better rather than the other way around. Some other things that happened in 2021, I got my books into book subscription boxes, which was really cool. I got a lot of covers made for books that aren't out yet, so you haven't seen the covers yet, and I'm really excited to show them to you. I started my TikTok account, which I had been putting off for years because I felt like I was too old for it. I felt like I wasn't cool enough for it. I didn't know how to do it. And now that's my one social media that's taken off more than anything. It's the one thing that sells my books more than anything. So I'm so glad that I finally decided to try it. I feel like this is just gonna be like a really disorganized kind of reflection thing, but I just wanted to have all of my thoughts in one place. So that's gonna be it for today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you're doing well, and I'll just see you guys in my next one very, very soon. Bye.
No. Pretty Caroline.